So, the next session, we have again two guys on this stage. So, let me welcome two of our architects at the ITAS. One is Ivo Köhler and the other is Stanley Schragl. And they will present about shifting gears to software as a service, drive automotive innovation in the cloud. Stage is yours.
Thanks, Markus. Hello and good morning, everyone. I hope you are enjoying this year's ITAS Connections. My name is Ivo. Next to me is Stanley.
Good morning, everybody.
Team Berlin, I would say. We are here today to talk about SaaS and cloud technologies. We heard a lot in the morning about embedded technologies, onboard technologies. Our talk will focus more on the offboard side of the game and how these SaaS cloud offerings can help you level up your game when you are developing connected vehicle services. But before we start, I also would like to have a look back, not as Thomas to the Stone Age and the car of Fred Feuerstein, but a little bit in the history. Because for decades, our vehicles were defined primarily by hardware in its components. And that was perfectly in line with the customer expectation and experience back then, which was great. But as we humans are evolving in our technologies, so are our vehicles and also our expectations towards those vehicles. A customer of today expects their vehicle to be fully integrated into their digital life. A significant portion of the vehicle's functionality and feature is defined by software. And those features are developed, managed, and deployed constantly. That means your vehicle is getting better and better. It's adapting to your needs. It's behaving how you need it on the road. It's advancing over time. And many of you know that this concept is called the fully programmable or the software-defined vehicle. But what does it actually take to transform our muscle car into one of those modern supercars? And what challenges do you need to solve along the way? Let's look at some of them. It's pretty obvious that the complexity of software development for those kind of software-defined vehicle scenarios is increasing dramatically. Especially the decoupling of hardware and software release cycles are paying into that. You now need to support older hardware generations in the field when deploying new software. And in order to deploy and manage this software at scale, you need to empower your software developers to be as productive and efficient as possible. You need to take care of their development tools and provide them with modern CI/CD pipelines to shorten their release cycles. Additionally, you need base OTA functionality. There's no way around that. You need to be able to connect to your vehicle, to update firmware ECUs in the field, to get access to vehicle data or trigger remote functions. And to manage all of that, you need a hell of an operation team, especially when you're deploying thousands, hundred thousands, millions of units in the field. You need to be able to maintain them all the time. And for those vehicles and the services, you need to make sure that you're meeting all the legal requirements the region you're deploying your fleet into is forcing you to do. You also need to make sure about compliance registrations. GDPR, just to mention one of them. And last but not least, to solve all of those challenges, and this, again, that's not even all of them, that's just some, you need highly talented and skilled people. And this war for talent is crucial. As it's really hard to find those people, it's even harder to hire them. And looking at all of those questions, how could SaaS offerings and cloud technologies help us here? And with that question, I would like to hand over to Stanley. Stanley, what's your take on that?
Thank you, Ivo. Yeah, so, first of all, I think that's a very interesting question. I would like to make up a scenario in order to think about it. So let's imagine an OEM wants to build a new model, a software-defined vehicle with all the mentioned characteristics. The question is, should he do everything himself or should he also leverage existing features? When we think about this make or buy decision, it's very important to distinguish between differentiating and non-differentiating features. So looking at the non-differentiating features, we can also call them commodity features, commodity services. Like you mentioned some, Ivo, firmware update over the air, vehicle management, fleet management, having a connection to your car, acquiring data out of your car, running analytics onto the data, storing them, visualizing them, all of that. All of this is or will be commodity in the future. I think the OEM is best advised to not build all of this by himself. Instead, he should leverage from what is there existing and offered on the market. The question is, how should he do this? And we can have a look at two famous software delivery models we know. Looking at software as a service, SaaS, versus software as a product, SaaS, at first sight we see that the license costs of SaaS are less than the subscription cost of SaaS. But in the second look, it reveals that there are many hidden costs in SaaS because you have the license, you can use the software, but you are also responsible for running the software, maintaining the software, keeping it up to date, keeping it secure by applying patches. Much of these responsibilities on the SaaS side is handled by the SaaS provider, and you pay for it with your subscription costs. Looking at all the cost structure in total, research shows that the total cost of ownership of a SaaS purchased and used software solution is twice as high as for SaaS purchased and used software offerings. Taking this into account, the recommendation for the non-differentiating features, of course, would be to the OEM. Is this working? Yes. Go for the buy decision and use software as a service delivery models to acquire the software and to let the SaaS provider cope with all the competencies and all the challenges the software in the software-defined vehicle era brings. For the differentiating features, instead, most OEMs want to build them in-house. Of course, they want to keep innovation, patents, and also intellectual property in-house. So most of them want to do this by themselves. In the software-defined vehicle era, those features, of course, you mentioned all the expectations of the future users. It should be state-of-the-art technology, it should be scalable, and here it definitely makes sense for the OEM to take a look at the advantages, the benefits in general cloud can bring you. At least we heard a lot of onboard software today, but also for the offboard backend part of it, we should at least for this have a look at what the cloud brings. You should leverage and take advantage of the experience and expertise the cloud hyperscaler, the cloud provider brings to you, instead of running your own software, running your own system in-house with on-prem installation. I think it's not a good idea. So leverage from the existing high availability, scalability, security, as well as compliance competencies the cloud brings you in general, of course. This brings me to a clear advice. If you make stuff on your own and you have a backend, leverage the cloud. But for me, there's one thing missing, because you need to integrate all of this purchased and self-built systems. And this integration is very hard, as we know. So what is missing is something, an offering, where there's an interoperable ecosystem where the OEM can build his own differentiating features in-house and integrate it based on commodity services that are offered via SaaS. Ivo, do you know if there's something in store by ETAS?
Thanks, Stanley. And yes, at ETAS, we are working hard to support our customers. I need to click, sorry for that. Especially on their journey regarding their software-defined vehicle strategy and to pick them up where they are actually. And with Pantaris, our cloud-based automotive integration platform, we are addressing exactly those requirements about buy, make, SaaS offerings, especially helping the OEMs to focus on the brand differentiating part while being able to use our base services to invent new exciting vehicle features. Let's see how this looks like from an architectural perspective. We can see the onboard part on the left side of the visualization, and the offboard part is the right part, the more bluish colored. And to begin with, Pantaris is a cloud agnostic platform. And this is important as depending on your customer or the region you are deploying your fleet into, you can choose the right hyperscaler and you can choose the right backend for your vehicles. Pantaris offers you all the base services we talked before to connect to your vehicle, get vehicle data out of the vehicle, trigger remote functions, do the ECU firmware update in the vehicle. It helps you to organize your fleet data, but it actually helps you even more in organizing your project, bringing together all your team members and offering all the tooling and repository for a smooth collaboration of those teams. And most importantly, it also offers you a managed runtime where you can deploy your domain service into. And this managed runtime is taking care of all the operational aspects you need to solve when running highly available services at scale. Also an invitation to all of you in the open space, we do have demo booths for our Pantaris platform and also an OTA case, the two-wheeler bike you will find. My colleagues over there are more than happy to show you the system. So this is a live system, it's running across the world. We will hear in a minute what it takes to actually maintain and support all of that. And to get a better feeling how a platform like this is developed and what it takes for ETAS to maintain it, Stanley, after his cough, will share some insights about that.
Yeah. So we thought you can check out Pantaris at the demo booth. We introduced a little bit about thoughts, SaaS, and cloud, make versus buy. We also wanted to share some experience with you because we are more like from the backend side, like cloud architects, and we have quite of a journey behind us building Pantaris. I think quite many of the challenges we just saw in the beginning also apply to us, not only onboard, also offboard. And building such a scalable cloud platform was not easy. I want to share with you some of our challenges, technical, organizational, and business-related challenges. I don't have time to go into detail in all of them, but I brought one case where we will have a little bit of a deep dive. Let's get started with from single tenancy to multi-tenancy. So most of the Pantaris products, like our commodity OTA services running on Pantaris, they started not on a greenfield. They originate from single-tenant project-specific solutions we built for certain customers. And the challenge here was to make a scalable multi-tenancy system out of this. But this requires to cope with, you also mentioned it, Ivo, sorry, data isolation, GDPR, privacy. When you have a fully scalable worldwide operating system and multiple customers with their data on it, you need to strictly take care of isolating things from one customer to the other. Today, Pantaris is fully scalable and GDPR compliant. We have strictly data isolation, but it was not easy. The second challenge was in general, we can say decoupling onboard versus offboard software release life cycles. So we have something like Covesa VSS, where data points in the vehicle are defined. Semantic data models are available that can be used onboard and offboard. But what was missing was a defined life cycle, where we can say one version is incubating, the other is productive, it's in the field, the third is maybe already deprecated, and the fourth version is maybe end of life already. We need to support that. We have multiple fleets out there in the field having different versions of our software and semantical models, and the backend need to cope with all of these versions. So we needed to build that. Today, our customers do not need to cope with this complexity. We solved it for them. Next challenge was also coming from project-specific price negotiations to build standard prices. We have now a SaaS offering with standard prices. We want to integrate our solution, our platform, with a billing and payment provider so that our customers have a nice calculation capability, calculate their costs when they use our systems, relying on the standard prices, getting accurate invoices and payment. You know, all of this, many regulations exist in this field, so that was challenging too. Next, reduce lead time. The release cycles get shorter and shorter. We heard that many times today. And this is an organizational issue we had because the structure of our development teams did not allow us to be fast. We did some research and found a very nice book called Team Topologies, and there's the idea of streamlined teams. A streamlined team is a cross-functional team where all the competencies a team needs to build and ship value autonomously, independently of other teams. That's the idea of this cross-functional stream-aligned team. So it's aligned on his value stream, not depending on deliveries from other teams. That was a very hard transition for us, but having this done reduced our implementation lead time from weeks to days. This brings a better go-to-market for our, let's say, new features, and also benefit for our customer is that feature requests, for instance, are reacted upon much faster than before. Last but not least, the most complex challenge for us was to build up cloud competencies. And for this, I have a little story. You build it, you run it. That's the approach our development teams already have for quite some years. Back then, it was not a problem. Our backends, they were operated in a managed, let's say, runtime environment, the Bosch IoT Cloud. That was a Cloud Foundry-based solution, and the developers had a very easy life. They could just easily deploy, run, and operate their services in this managed runtime. But about 3 years ago, there was a strategical shift towards partnering, we heard that before today, with hyperscaler cloud providers, AWS and Azure. That caused lots of technical challenges to our dev teams. Suddenly, they needed to cope with a complete new ecosystem, with complete new technology stack. And we had something like the Cloud Agnostic Blueprint. That's a guild-maintained blueprint. It's a recommendation, a set of tools that you can use together that play nicely together in order to run your service in a cloud-agnostic way. But that was just a blueprint. It's just a guild. There was no guidance, and there was not a managed runtime again. So that caused very, very much problems. We kind of had 12 development teams. All of those teams suddenly needed to learn these new technologies. So we had huge invests and lots of hassles with the new technology. And we did not leverage from the cloud benefits I introduced before. All of their teams, they build up their own infrastructure, not together use the same infrastructure services like from Azure, for instance. So we did not have no synergies in terms of shared infrastructure services, but also not in terms of shared knowledge. Because of the different approaches, we had very high infrastructure costs. And also we had high operations efforts in the teams. You build it, you run it. So you run and operate your service before, like in your team. That means the team itself has less time for the actual feature development. So that was not good. We addressed this issue by introducing a so-called site reliability engineering team. So this team was now, the idea of this team was to have a competence center that builds up knowledge, shares the knowledge amongst all teams, but also has the responsibility to create like a runtime environment based on this cloud agnostic blueprint, but in a managed way so that our developers can focus on their work and just deploy their software into. So we built like this managed runtime thing, and the developers can concentrate again on their actual task, develop features, not taking care of building up a monitoring stack, not thinking about how do I do secure networking or zero downtime releases. So that's all what's coming from this new SRE team now. And this is based on state-of-the-art technology, like in a cloud-agnostic way, coming from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, open source. We called this the managed runtime, and it was working so good, and it gained interest in other Bosch units and projects because they all had the same issues we had. So we thought about, okay, why not making a product out of it? And today, this managed runtime is offered internally in Bosch and ETAS and other subsidiaries, as well as externally to our customers, having the same problems we had. The managed runtime is Bosch compliant with regards to quality and security requirements. It's cloud agnostic. It's not only the runtime itself, it's also offered with a service management, like proven processes and tools, as well as first, second, and third level support. And most importantly, it's powered by an operations team that acts worldwide. We have 3 teams being responsible for operations alone. 3 teams covering all the time zones, powering a 24/7 follow-the-sun operations concept. It took us 3 years to build up this, let's say, operations and cloud competencies. We invested 27 full-time equivalents for that. And I would say, yes, that's the hell of an operations team. You need Ivo. We took the joy, the ride, and today we have the managed runtime, and we are happy about it. It's powering Pantaris, and it can also power your services when you need such a thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stanley.
So, thanks Ivo, thanks Stanley. You even saved 3 times 3 minutes of our lunch break, but nevertheless, are there any questions in the room or also online? Everybody just wants to go to lunch.
We started late and had the task to bring in the missing time. I hope that was good. Everybody's hungry, I guess.
So, if there are no questions, then
Feel happy to approach us anytime today. Our colleagues at the booth, we're happy to talk to you, discuss things, and enjoy the rest of the day and happy lunch, I would say.
all right. So,
Happy Just Connections. Thank you.